Good morning. Coming to you as usual to share some of what's clicking for me, what I'm realizing, what I'm noticing, what I'm inspired by, some inner ahas that I like to share with you, hoping this is helpful to you along your journey. So, was inspired this morning, and I've been thinking about this so much. I love this quote that I titled this: Never lose sight of the power within. And it's a quote from Neville Goddard, who's a classic teacher on things like spirituality, consciousness, manifestation, who's influenced a lot of teachers now, including me. And also from a person who is an influencer that makes videos and does trainings, who I'm inspired by, named Joseph Rodriguez. Listen to his videos pretty often. And he just put one out about this. And so, through things like learning with Joseph and other teachers I'm always learning with, and Neville, this idea of never losing sight of the power within. And I feel like this is this idea that a lot of us could get into. Like, sure, we have this power within, get excited about that, but it's like, well, what is that power? And I love that as Joseph is helping bring Neville's work to current people like us, Neville was talking a lot about this power within being our imagination. And that our imagination, he says, is even like our God power. It is God within, right? That's our creative power, is our imagination. And so when we're talking about never lose sight of, and I love that even that word sight is kind of bringing in a play of words, because we're talking about our vision. And that's what I love. Joseph will talk about bringing the ideal vision and the ideal mindset, right? That goes with the ideal vision that we might have for our lives, for ourselves. And even this idea that that ideal vision is like our heart, our soul guiding us towards things like our purpose, if we like to get into such ideas. So, imagination, so powerful, right? And really maybe our biggest power. And what I'm starting to see as we look at doing things like whether it's just improving our mental health or improving our life experience, right? Or if we're interested in things like elevating our consciousness and that whole ride, right? That this is a big part of it. Realizing and recognizing that that imagination, which here's the thing, it's not like we're not using it, right? I'm going to get a little serious here for a minute with me and you, because it's not like we're sitting around not using this imagination, right? Truth is, if you're like me and other people I've gotten to be in on their inner experience, you're probably using that imagination all day long. So it's not like we're not using this power within, right? We're using it. It's engaged, it's active, it's happening, right? But, and this is where practices that help us look at what we're doing in the mind, what we're doing in the imagination, just to start to become aware, are part of the deal. So, as we start to just notice more what we are doing in the mind and however we can help ourselves do that, we start to notice more how we are using that power within, that imagination. It's like, what the fuck are we imagining, right? And it's probably not always what we want, or maybe always we're picturing the worst, right? Or even imagining, remembering things from the past that, if we're talking about imagining from our ideal vision, right? And this is where I love this video today that I was just listening to from Joseph, was he was bringing forth that Neville would talk about how we can see it as like coming from the perspective of love. So if we could bring love into our vision, into our imagination. So like what we're talking about is becoming more conscious and purposeful with how we're using that imagination, right? And then to absolutely realize and recognize that how we're feeling right now has everything to do with how we're using that imagination, right? If we're feeling anxious right now, it's very likely, if not for sure, because of what we're imagining right now, right? Or what we have been imagining. And also, if we're having stuff in life go on that isn't what we wanted, right? And it's feeling terrible, even that is very likely because of misuse of this power within, right? That imagination that is our power. So I'm just starting to get and see that part of maybe this evolution, this expansion of consciousness, this realizing our power is a lot about imagination and realizing that it is perhaps our biggest tool, maybe even our God power, right? That we need to take a look at how we're using it and start using it more productively, right? More magically, more purposefully, and more lovingly. That's what's so cool that Neville was talking about and that Joseph is bringing forth is that we can start to see that if we want to be in this more love perspective and starting to cultivate a more ideal vision, right, about ourselves, about other people as well. This is so cool because, right, we're even imagining for other people in our lives that we love. And maybe, again, we're imagining not from a loving perspective. So we can start to see that, yeah, part of this consciousness raising and just becoming more conscious is looking hard at how we're using imagination. It's not going to go away, right? It is our tool and we are using it. So it's about doing what we can to cultivate a different use of imagination. And yet, I'm interested in noticing that it is a holistic picture, though, that maybe we can't just sit and try to force and change what's happening in the imagination, that it's all energy and how we feel is such an indicator of our energy. So it does involve ways we can take care of ourselves and help raise our energy and feel better in general is all going to help us cultivate and shift how we're using that mind and that imagination. But, and yeah, just wanting to bring forth this awareness that part of growing up in our imagination, and again, even just shifting how we feel in things like our mental health, how much of our anxiety and depression has to do with what we are and aren't doing with our imagination, and how much of life experiences going on that aren't what we wanted, part of misuse of that imagination, right? And what if we see it more about just bringing love into the imagination, like imagining with love, whatever that might mean or feel like to you or me. Yeah, and then if we're excited about a spiritual awakening, a spiritual awakening, a spiritual realization, right? It's like, oh, I am that, I am a child of God, I am God, right? Or any of those ways we can see it or express it, that this is part of it. Really taking a look, pun intended, at how we're using that vision, that power, never losing sight of that power within and starting to use it a lot more purposefully, a lot more lovingly, right? In the name of our mental health, in the name of what we're creating in our lives and what we're bringing to the world, right? What we're creating here on earth. And that's where it's exciting to think like if more of us realize this and start imagining differently for the world even, this is where things could really get better and different collectively, right? If more of us just realize this, just start using our imagination more purposefully, more powerfully, more lovingly, right? And that we can become that power on the planet. So I hope that's helpful to you. It's inspiring to me to just want to take charge and bring forth and own that power that is always there and that I'm likely misusing or have been. So this is for me, this is for you. Here's to never losing sight of that power within and starting to use it a lot more lovingly, right? And powerfully and beautifully. So Hope that's helpful today along your journey. Thanks for listening, guys. I love sharing what's inspiring me, what's helping me along the way, and just hoping that's helpful to you too today. So sending you lots of love out there. See you soon. Namaste.